Hello and welcome to Sheer Fucking Hubris, a podcast started by three buddies, three Star Trek fans who get together and talk about Star Trek each week. I am Joe Bob. Joining me is Mr. Willie
Hello.
and the Biblio Warden.
Hello.
And this week we continued our little break from the current slate of Star Trek series to watch some favorites from past series of Star Trek. Some that I think Warden has seen all of, some that mostly I've seen, and then I think some of them are definitely new for Mr. Willie. How are you gentlemen this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Lovely. Happy Independence Day, 4th of July.
Yes, I have the Battle of Fallujah just outside my window. Because apparently that's what Ashtabula likes to do, is blow shit up. And I don't even care if I doxed myself just now.
Well, it's important to remember the freedom from the tyranny of Pride Month that is now gone.
Yes, well.
Thank goodness.
No, not thank goodness, you asshole. I'm frustrated we only got one Pride Month show in, but somebody had to go on vacation. And
Yes, I'm an asshole.
somebody else had to go, whatever, fuck their husband because they finally got a free night with no guests in the house. I'll excuse it, but I expect better next Pride Month, gentlemen.
Okay, very well.
So, did everybody enjoy some Star Trek in their time off? It's been a couple weeks since we've talked.
Oh my, yes.
I did enjoy some Star Trek in my time off.
Did you not enjoy Star Trek at any point during your time off?
Well, I haven't seen Discovery or Picard in weeks, so it was a hell of a good start.
Well,
It's only been a week?
I said a few weeks, didn't I?
No, you said a week, so I was confused.
He's like me. He has to go back and watch.
Yeah, I
Burnham
went
at
back
least
and watched a few
every couple weeks.
Masochism. Okay, it's a lifestyle.
What are those guys called that inflicted pain on themselves for religious purposes? That's the kind of Trekkie I am.
What are they? Flagellists or something along that lines? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Mm.
Flagellus sounds somehow sexual to me, though. But
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I know
We've taken a weird turn.
Penance was the guy that did it in the comic books after he killed a bunch of people on accident. He inflicted pain.
Well, I'm actually going off
was that
Angels
Da Vinci
and
Code?
Demons. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There
was.
I think that was Angels and Demons, wasn't it? But
yeah,
Paul Bettany's character.
It's Paul Bettany that does it. Is Angels and Demons the sequel to Da Vinci Code?
It is.
Yeah, because it's the one where he killed all the folks, right?
At least the movie. I think technically Angels and Demons is the prequel to in the books, but it's the sequel in the movies because
Da Vinci Code, Gandalf the Grey was the villain in Da Vinci Code. Paul Bettany was the guy, and Dr. Octopus was they were angels and demons, right?
And Tom Hanks was Jesus.
I mean,
Tom, right. In a way, yeah.
That has always been the case.
Random French girl was Jesus' descendant.
No, that's in. Oh shit! Never mind. I can't even remember. What movie was Alanis Morissette Jesus? I'll keep wanting to say Clerks, but I don't think it's Clerks. Dogma. For the people that brought you Clerks.
Those are very different movies.
They are, but it's done by the same people.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Clerks, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob, whatever the fuck those are
all
called.
the same.
They're all the same. That's right. All
Oh
right.
man.
So this week, Warden recommended 3 episodes. I recommended 2. We took on 5 this week. Or
It was a
over the last
tall
3
order.
weeks. 2 or 3 weeks. It was not a tall order.
It was a tall order.
And so the episodes that we watched were from the original series, Amok Time and Space Seed, from Deep Space Nine, The Visitor, and Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite, and from Star Trek Voyager, Blink of an Eye. I had seen all of these except I am not 100% sure I'd seen Amok Time all the way through. I know I've seen parts of it, but it had been a long time, so we'll call that a first viewing for me. Warden, I'm pretty sure you'd seen all of these.
Yes, I had seen all of these. It's been a while, but yeah, I've seen them all.
Okay. And Willie, were these all new watchings for you?
After I watched The Visitor, or as I was watching it, I remembered that I had watched it before.
Okay.
But it had been so long that, I didn't, for all intents and purposes, it was a first watch.
All right. Well, let's start off with Amok Time. Since it was kind of a new one for me, I'll give you my fresh thoughts on it as a... Sorry, what?
Spockamok.
Spockamok.
Which was actually what the Strange New Worlds episode was titled, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh boy, well this is an interesting episode, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying watching. That's kind of why I've been picking some original series stuff, is because we've been watching and enjoying Strange New Worlds, and I know there's some gaps in Willie's knowledge, or at least in his viewing history, and I thought it would be fun to get him caught up on some of the minor backstory stuff. So,
Well, yes, in this minor backstory, we found out that T'Pringle got the T'Pringle tingle for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it was throwing me the whole time because I was like, I know that son of a bitch. Where have I seen him before? And he was the Romulan sub-commander in
yes,
Balance of Terror.
same actor. Yes.
Uh-huh.
I didn't catch that.
And yeah, this is an interesting episode. This is a role reversal because Kirk and Spock are acting like fucking Goofus and Gallant the whole time, but this time it's Spock that's the Goofus. And Kirk is the more logical one.
Mm-hmm.
He yelled at poor Nurse Chapel.
Yeah.
He did. I'm so glad that when a logical being loses all of his emotional control, he just turns into a 1960s husband. That's a little too on the nose there, Gene.
Wow. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's I don't see the logic in continuing 1,000-year-old rituals. But, sure, beat that gong, buddy.
That he did.
They have no control. That's the one thing that they don't have logical control over. So that's...
Well, it would make sense though. It would make sense
there
if it's...
was in control of their faculties except for Spock. It was the whole ceremonial part of it that I'm like, okay, well, whatever. You want to call it logical.
If that is the outlet for how they purge their emotions, right? And so it's kind of like one of those deals. It's like the Purge movies, right? You get one time of your life when you just go batshit crazy, right? And then the rest of the time you're, a logical being. It kind of makes sense, right?
Sure.
I can give it a grain of salt.
Look, I agree that the Pon farr part of it makes sense. It's just the
ritual behind it is a little hard.
Yeah, the ritualistic side of it from everyone else is like, a little bit weird, but it's fine. I enjoyed it. It was okay,
The thing that
and it's not once a lifetime, right? I thought it was like every 7 or 12 years or
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. I thought he said 10 years, but yeah.
My question is, okay, so if Spock won and she decided to be, and they decided to stay together as a couple or whatever, would they all have, as part of the ritual, just stayed there and watched? Or, I mean,
that's an excellent question.
That is a good question.
I would have.
Well, we know you would
there was
have.
anywhere to go for privacy. It was 1,000-meter long bridge to get there in the middle of the desert.
Your metabolism's not ready for that kind of heat, Jim.
It's so hot. Milk was a bad choice.
I like the clever little twist where McCoy gave him the death potion.
Yeah.
Fake death potion serum, whatever.
Yeah.
Which,
the Romeo and Juliet bottle.
I was trying to think that happened in some kind of sci-fi recently. I was trying to think. It happened in one of the Sherlock Holmes movies, but I feel like it's happened in another high-profile show or movie recently too, where they basically fake somebody's death by slowing their metabolic rate so far. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Like I said, I know they did it in the first Sherlock Holmes movie when they faked that guy's death.
Sure. I don't know.
No, but I thought it was clever. I mean, this one gets credit because it was 60 years ago. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Still a ballsy move. He still had to,
it was.
Still could have killed him before that, but.
And it's funny now knowing that McCoy was just fucking with him when he's like, "Well, I guess you're the captain now. What are your orders?"
Yeah,
like he's not really the captain. You're just dicking with Spock.
He had to sell it.
Oh, I mean,
yeah. Sell it.
I enjoyed the episode. It was interesting to see, like you said, the roles kind of be reversed a little bit. Spock's going, batshit 1950s husband crazy, and he all but just backhanded Nurse Chapel. That would have been a total 1950s husband, I guess. But he threw the bowl at her. It's like Peter Griffin. No. Just go ahead and throw that out because I don't want you to get out of practice. But it was an interesting episode. The whole ritual ceremony thing, that was a little weird, for logical beings, which I guess maybe that was Kirk's fault. He probably should have asked about some of the finer details of what he was agreeing to.
Well, yeah.
But that's also a very brash Kirk thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the deal with the accent of the Vulcan to power lady? I don't know what that was supposed to be.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Yes, it was supposed to sound alien, I think, is all that it was. Which no other Vulcan sounds like that, so I don't know what's going on with that, but whatever.
No other human sounds like that. I don't know what. I think that's the old Alan Rickman. If you just make it weird enough, then they can't say you're doing a bad accent because it's completely made up.
But no, I thought it was good, and to Warden's point, I've enjoyed going back and watching some TOS to get a little bit of context and to get some backstory. I thought this one was good because I had seen Spockamok, and now it made a little bit more sense, even though clearly they've kind of tampered with a little bit of the canon with the Pringle Tingle. Yeah,
I'm more than happy with them tampering with some of the canon.
Yeah,
I'm still a spackle shipper.
Yeah. I loved when Hulk smashed his computer in.
Yeah.
That
the
was great.
first punch, it was believable enough, but by the time he was like pounding it down, I'm like, no, that's not made out of cardboard.
No, no, not at all.
Oh me.
Really, the only criticism I have of TOS episodes is they're all like 58 minutes long or so. Like those are long episodes.
I mean, yeah.
Most shows nowadays are 43 minutes if they're an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are long episodes. So when you try, like I watched the 2 TOS episodes or tried to watch them back to back and got like 15 minutes into the next one. I said, nope, I don't have the energy for this. I gotta pick this up later. It was like watching a feature-length movie. Well, no, it was like watching a 1990s feature-length movie, not these 3-hour sacks of shit we get now that make you sit there. Our TV shows have gotten shorter and our movies have gotten god-awfully long. But
yeah.
anyway, I guess that was a sidebar. That was soapbox moment.
Really
for Miss
think, dude.
Willie.
So let me throw it over to Warden, because Warden picked this episode, and I think. Do you have anything else to say about it, Warden? I mean, you told us kind of why you picked it, but anything else?
Yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. It's a weird episode. And we're gonna get to it when we talk about Space Seed later. But I didn't realize just how freaking sexual the original series was. Or I knew that, but I didn't realize it didn't. I forgot how much it was, and also forgot just they still did have good bit of little casual misogyny going there, didn't they?
Just a little bit.
Just a tad. Just a tad.
Utopia had not quite made it to the women's movement yet there.
Well, Roddenberry loved the ladies.
Yes, he did. Oh my god, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or Majel.
Yeah.
Nah, she did all right.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Star Trek, the original series, Amok Time. Happy Pond Far, everybody.
Every time.
The second episode that we watched was from Star Trek Voyagers. I think it's season 6. Blink of an Eye. I called this a sci-fi short story last week, but it's one that I enjoy. So, Willie, tell us your thoughts upon a first viewing of Blink of an Eye.
As far as a standalone sci-fi short story goes, I thought it was great. I didn't really hone in too much on the whole space-time continuum thing, but like it kind of made sense, right? And and then as you saw like the civilization progressing and all that, and then when it hit that critical point where they progressed to a point where they were actually a threat, you know, earlier on, I don't know, I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was a fun episode. And I thought it was interesting how it flipped the script where early on, they were so primitive that it didn't matter that the time delays were so off, right? Like who gave a shit? And then at the end where they're like, yeah, they're hitting us with these antimatter weapons every second or every minute because it's 3 days in their time and they're, refining it each time. Then it kind of became a critical point the other way around, right? The time started working against them. And I thought it was fun. I enjoyed that episode.
Warden, got any thoughts on Blink of an Eye?
Yeah, I mean, it had been a long time since I see it, and to the point you've both made, it really does feel like some of the best stuff out of Asimov's or the Astounding Stories magazine or something like that. It's a really nice encapsulated thought experiment kind of story. It's cool. I liked it. I yeah, and I thought that they also it's neat. It's nice when you see a neat concept that they actually execute on well. Um, you know.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And without burying you in technobabble, like what
Yeah.
Discovery does. Like, Tuvok makes this one-off comment like we're now in a geosynchronous orbit. Okay, well then it makes perfect fucking sense that these people are staring at this thing in the exact same spot in the sky
Mhm.
and can look at it, but they didn't bury us in it. It was just it was very trimmed down so that the technobabble wasn't the focal point of what was going on. But if you caught it and you kind of knew what these terms meant, like, hey, that's actually pretty clever, or they actually set that up to where it made sense. But
I
um,
found it interesting how the culture would sort of hold on to its primitive uh, traditions, and that those would kind of carry over into eras like how when the ground shaking first started, they're like the fire fruit is only for ground shaker,
yeah,
and then during the Renaissance era, they're talking about scientific study and everything. He's like, really? He's like, have a bite of this fire fruit, and they're like, oh, well, it's bad luck.
yeah, it's bad luck.
And
Yeah,
how that kind of translated through the years.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I enjoyed that. Character wise, it's another episode where Chakotay's kind of a douchebag. I mean, not terrible, but just I don't like Chakotay in any episode, even a good episode. Uh, really, the only character that got a ton of or got a little bit of development in this is the Doctor. I think it's another important episode for the Doctor
Mhm.
getting to spend time down
so his
there, and I
holographic
thought
penis works.
well, I assumed it was a adopted,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did too. But still.
but we'll assume
And
that
then
the
he kind of
holographic
just
sperm
they
was.
kind of left that hanging though. I guess I thought at the end they were somehow gonna tie that up with a bow,
I did
but
too.
they did not.
They did not, but it was cute. His little back and forth with the astronaut about
Yeah,
the lakeside versus mountainside
Yeah.
teams and the goalkeeper and
yeah, the uppers and the dooners.
yeah, he would have gone into voluntary exile after a 3-10 season or whatever it was. Uh, and then yeah, they solved it by talking to the guy and getting him to go home and convince him, and then they help him out and they get back on their way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep, that was
fun
pretty.
little episode.
I thought it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. Again, I don't remember much Voyager. I still don't love the crew. Maybe it's because when you're just pulling up spot checks, you don't really have time to. You don't get all the character backstory and character development and all that, right?
Mhm.
Um,
I will
but
say
I,
that's
I
part of it.
appreciated.
That may be part of it. Part of it is that the crew is not lovable.
Well, that could be it. Like I did appreciate because it's also weird for me since I didn't watch much Voyager, and the Voyager I did watch was pre Seven of Nine. Like I don't
Mhm.
remember how far into it she came in, but she wasn't part of the original, right? I mean, it was a couple seasons in, right?
Yeah, it was she came on a season-ending cliffhanger. And I
Okay,
think it was season 3 to 4.
so
Yeah. Wasn't that Scorpion or
It's
whatever?
Scorpion, yeah, but I can't remember if that was the 3 to 4 cliffhanger or the 4 to 5. I'm pretty sure it was 3 to 4.
but it's weird seeing her
Yes,
in
3 to 4.
Picard, right? Seeing her in Picard, and that being more what I know her from.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then seeing her in Voyager, it's the dichotomy just doesn't really line up. Like I would assume if I watched all of Voyager, I would kind of see that progression
Yeah.
and then be able to extrapolate it out to where they are or where her character is now in Picard. But
Mhm.
so that seems a little stilted, but that's probably just because of gaps in viewing.
Yeah. I
Um,
think not just because of gaps viewing, I think it's just less jarring to see it in the order, the original order. To okay, well, she got there. My brain can more easily fill in how she got to the person on Picard than your brain work it backwards. You know, it
maybe
doesn't
so.
make sense going one. It makes more sense going one direction than going backwards.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
You know, she and the Doctor were both kind of did shared duty on Voyager as the Data-ish character. You know, the person becoming, or you know, and so yeah.
But the Doctor did it much better, I thought.
Yeah.
Of course, he was there the whole time.
Yes.
But,
and her thing is more like becoming a person again, and that whole thing. So, I mean, it's a different spin on it, but yeah.
While looking sexy.
Well, of course, because I mean, teenage
That's
boys
right.
in particular.
So,
yeah.
but no, again, it was good. I'm sure there's a lot of stinkers out there on Voyager.
Oh,
You know, but at least the ones you've pulled up so far have been good.
Yeah,
Yeah, Chakotay's kind of a. It's not that he's a douchebag. It's that
he's a paper bag. A wet
what?
paper bag.
Yeah, it's like you've got a first officer who's just kind of like a nerd. Like he's not really involved as far as first officership duties go. He has this weird sexual tension almost with the captain,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems very, very odd, right?
Yes.
Um, and I remember that being the case in a lot of the episodes we've watched, right? That just seems weird, you know. And every time that plays out, it's I don't know, I can't figure that out, but um, I remember liking Balana,
mm-hmm.
and I still think I like Balana's character. Um, and of course, nobody else really got a whole ton of screen time during this one. But no, I thought it was good. Thought it was good. Thought you had a good guest appearance from Daniel Day Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought it, like I said, I thought it was a clever story.
Fun little episode.
Thought it was cute that he was like, I used to have Starship toys in my, cradle at home, crib at home.
Skyship friends.
Yeah, the Skyship friends. Yeah. And how it wouldn't have made any fucking sense to have been able to see the Starship had they not kind of set it up that way, Even the idea of saying, like, take, take packets of information every 10 minutes, and you're going to be getting every, you know, 2 years or what have you,
Yeah.
and kind of looking at the progression. Like I thought it was, and then the little bit about this is what's driving our advancement. So it was almost like a symbiotic relationship that then somehow also festered a little bit, right? When they figured out that the Earth Shaker may have been what was causing all their issues. It wasn't necessarily that they were just striving for technological advancement to, possibly study them. It was like, all right, now we got to get these fuckers blown out of the sky,
Mm-hmm.
So thought that was cool. Don't remember who picked it, but I would say good choice.
That one was my pick, but as soon as I did, Warden approved of it. So
Okay.
So moving on to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We've got 2 Deep Space Nine episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is, I would say, probably the heaviest of the episodes we watched this week. Season 4, I want to say.
Yeah.
The Visitor.
Yeah.
Warden, you want to tell us why you picked The Visitor?
It's just a freaking good episode. I mean, it's a somber episode, but it's just it good again, another good thought experiment about like, okay, how would the whole figuring out how to rescue Cisco bit and how that weaves through Jake's whole life in this episode. I loved that bit, and then it's a really good guest star appearance. I mean, he's yeah, he really sells Jake, adult Jake, Tony Todd. That's who it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who is also stars a few times as Worf's brother,
Mm-hmm.
Ern.
Completely different characters, incidentally.
Yeah.
Could not be
Just
more. But I mean, and such another time where DS9 did things that would be considered brave, or things that you would not normally do, like having an episode of your show being carried by a guest star. Because
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ordinarily you don't do that. But yeah, I just thought it was a really well done episode. Takes things in a different direction. So yeah, that's kind of that was where I was coming from with that. I just enjoyed the whole the acting and everything. So
Willie, how did you feel about it upon your first viewing? Or I know you said that you had seen this before, but it had been a while.
Yep. Um, I enjoyed it. I mean, again, of course, right now we have the benefit of picking episodes that we've all liked, so we're not probably going to run up against one that's just a shit show. Although I half expect Joe Bob to just throw one in to fuck with us at some point. but but I thought it was good. It took me a while because it was so different from Kern. I couldn't place him. I actually wound up having to look it up, and then I was like, "Holy shit, that was Kern!" But thought it was good. Thought it again was a clever premise, right?
mm-hmm.
He kind of got out of phase, and he was kind of existed outside the normal space time continuum a little bit. And that's why he kept popping up. He had an age, yada, yada, yada. I thought it was interesting. It was a good way to do somewhat of a time travel episode without pissing me off in doing a time travel episode. And then, kind of bringing it back home where Jake was the hero and kind of the martyr at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
To turn him loose, bring him back, and then obviously Cisco kind of had some premonition about what was going to happen in that moment and avoided it. But meanwhile, Jake has that was what was cool. I thought about this episode was Cisco will always know that story. Jake will never know it. So
Mm-hmm.
There was a splinter in the timeline, I guess you would say, because the Jake has continued with the rest of the show, had no idea that ever happened, and that he wound up having to do that. But Cisco is going to know that. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, Cisco is in some ways validated as a character, but it also is sort of a validation of Avery Brooks, because the relationship between Ben and Jake Sisko is like a pillar of Deep Space Nine. It's especially important to Avery Brooks to show the relationship of a black father sticking around for his son, and how critical having that father figure there in your life is for young black men. And because when you hear him talk, he talks a lot about how much damage it does when one's not around. And I mean, so Cisco gets to see how much Jake needed him to continue to be around, even into I don't remember exactly how old Jake's supposed to be at this point, but I'm guessing it's probably 17, 16 years old, something like that.
He was 17. He said it. He said the
17.
worst thing that could happen to a 17-year-old man happened. So
And yeah, so it's a story about that, and showing the fallout of what happens when you take the father figure out, even at that age.
yeah, yeah, and then of course address what happens when you become obsessed with something. Like he lost his wife, lost his chance of life, and Ben's even like, Jake, you've got to promise me to let this go. Like, let me go, live your life. Don't
Hmm.
um, you know, don't waste your life worrying about me. He's like, I'm fine. This is about you now. Um,
And he comes to him at one point. He's like, "You're older than I am." You know.
yeah. Um, yeah, I thought it
Mhm.
was I thought it was a good episode. It was I hadn't really thought about the fact that a guest star carried it, but yeah, a guest star did carry the episode. Um, the dynamic between him and the girl was a little weird, but
Yes,
I
it
could look
was.
past that.
Mhm.
I could look past that for the rest of the episode. I didn't really get. I didn't understand that interaction so much, but whatever. Like,
She played it weird. She made it weird, I thought.
yeah, she made it almost like a stalker or like romantic type attraction to him, not an intellectual or fandom or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that was weird,
she was a
but
little
no,
too smitten with him.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. But I thought it was cool, that yeah, he talked about he got a wife, they got married in like his grandfather's or Cisco's dad's restaurant, and and Cisco or Ben when he came back, he was just like so interested in hearing about his life and hearing about all these details. It was a very well done episode.
And it's something that just while we were talking here, it occurred to me. But it is interesting that they show a person discovering all the things that Jake does through his life and becoming a PhD and all of the degrees he gets to in the course of his obsession. Most people objectively third party looking from the outside would not look at that as like a wasted life.
Yeah.
But in the context of who Jake is and what his dreams were, he didn't really. So it's interesting about the what they're maybe saying, what they're saying there about the importance of being following your passions and being true to who you are, rather than just accomplishments in for their own sake. I'm not saying this articulately, but I hope you're getting
No,
what I'm
I
trying to say.
I understand what you're saying. That
Yeah.
that in when the cost is too high, they sort of become hollow pursuits. Even if you achieve something that most people would say is wonderful, what did it take away from you in the end?
Hmm.
And there's that balance, that cost
Hmm.
to benefit. Um, I enjoyed the way that the crew of Deep Space Nine kind of took Jake on as a surrogate son, in
Hmm.
some of the because by all accounts, when you hear production stories, I mean that's the way they felt about Lofton, the actor,
Hmm.
because he grew up on that show.
Yeah.
And then, it's in addition to it being a good episode, it's worth remembering too that just kind of how pivotal Deep Space Nine was to be a show in the '90s, a primetime show on major network television that was a drama that would have entire episodes dedicated to just two black men interacting and
Hmm.
talking and having a
Hmm.
relationship, because that didn't happen. I mean, Deep Space Nine was, and you have the Bechdel test, which is of course about women
Hmm.
on screen having actual conversations, but black men didn't have on screen interactions. Not They did in sitcoms, but not in dramas, not during prime time. And Deep Space Nine was literally one of the very first shows to show it, and they showed it regularly. Um, and of course, this is an episode that's completely carried by Brooks and Tony Todd's that his name?
Mhm.
Yeah. Very good episode.
Yeah, one of my favorites. It's definitely in my mind. It's the okay, now I can't remember it, but I was gonna say Inner Light of DS9 as far as being like definitely quite different from what they do in the rest of the series, but being deeply affecting.
Mhm. All right. The next one, in stark contrast to this, is
Oh my,
a
yes.
silly, lighthearted episode. This is another one that I picked because Deep Space Nine had some very heavy episodes, especially in that 6th and 7th season, and this is in the middle of the 7th season, or first third of the 7th season. Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite. Willie, how did you feel about Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite?
It was fun. So this reminded me a lot of the Kingdom of Elysia or whatever was the name of the Strange New Worlds episode,
Mm-hmm.
where it was a silly episode that had a good context in the grand scheme of things, but didn't take itself too seriously. And the actors had fun with it.
Oh my
right?
god.
Absolutely.
So, like, to me, it was just like at one point I was sitting there and I was just like chuckling at it. I'm pretty sure it was at Odo being the umpire,
Yes.
and and my wife was like, "Are you like do you are you enjoying this episode because it's baseball or because it's a good episode?" And I said, yes, like both. Like, first off, it's funny that the backdrop is baseball, right? And Cisco's obviously like a super fan, and all these other people have no fucking clue what's going on, right? Which, if you think about out in the ass middle of nowhere space on this station in the 24th century, that's probably what baseball has become. You know, um, Cisco wearing the San Francisco Giants hat looked like freaking Barry Bonds out there, or not Barry Bonds. Who was the manager? Barry Bonds was playing. Dusty Baker looked like him, and then Jake wearing the Atlanta hat, and then everybody else has no clue what's going on. Like, never even picked up a baseball. Um, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and then all at the same time having the backdrop. You know, again, because I haven't seen all of DS9, but like when the prick Vulcan captain comes in, he's like, "Here's our repair list." He's like, "All right, you need to upgrade your warp drive. You need to do this. We can probably get this." Like, it also kind of reminded you of what was going on in the episode and what DS9 was there for, right? Which it was a facility, a Starfleet facility, right? But then at the same time, yeah, I felt like they did a good job of weaving it in without making it
Sorry
too
about
silly. No,
um
you're good. Um, no, I thought it was great. Like I said, Cisco getting tossed for bumping Odo was perfect. Um, him come. I mean, and they were just like,
look it
I mean,
up, but do it from the stands. You're
yeah.
gone.
um,
What I was saying, Willie, when my internet messed up or whatever the hell happened was the look that Kira gives Odo is so cute when he's in his
yeah,
office
safe.
practicing. And first
Yeah,
she's like, "What the hell?" And then she gives a smile. It's just so cute.
yeah, yeah. It
Oh,
was it was a very well done episode. It was fun. Um, again, because I don't really the crew's not very familiar, and Lita and Esri were not even a part of the show when I was watching it, and I didn't I don't love them, but I love Cisco. I love O'Brien. I love Kira Odo. Like, it's just a fun crew. Those other ones kind of, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say they annoyed me, but it was just they weren't as familiar, you know.
Lita is good, and Lita's okay in small doses. Ezra's just so cute to me. Did you notice
Okay.
we got another Emily reference? Her Ole Miss host that was a gymnast.
Yeah, I did get that.
She mentioned her previous host was an athlete, and then she did her flip off the wall.
Yep, a fancy Dan. Now that
Had,
is a fancy Dan.
had you ever heard of a fancy Dan?
I had not.
Nope.
I was gonna say, like,
I had
when
not.
Bashir's like, "That's bullshit. That's not in there." I was like, "No,
But
it's not."
like the explanation of the infield fly rule was great because it is that I mean, it is that confusing of a rule for baseball. Like when you first encounter infield fly, when I was playing King Griffey Jr.'s Major League Baseball, 1995, and I would get hit with an infield fly, I remember thinking like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah,
And so I thought it was great that they were sitting there, explaining because, but like I said, it was fun. It was fun. Somehow, I guess I missed that Bashir was an augment. Um,
it
I
doesn't.
didn't really.
It hadn't come up yet in the show when you.
Okay, they just kind of glanced over that. And obviously, you knew they were just going to get, massacred. But uh, it was great. It was great. I really enjoyed the episode. Rom's just a total just doofus. Talking about Goofus and Gallant. I mean,
I
that's
know.
all he is.
Worf may be my favorite in this episode.
Yeah,
When they like start the chatter, hey bada bada, hey bada bada, death to the opposition.
yeah. One point
And
he was like,
when he misses home plate, he's like, "What do I do? Find him and kill him."
yeah, yeah. That was pretty good. We will destroy them. Um, but yeah, that was
And
good. And then I mean, even Cisco's explanation going back of all the history. Like obviously you could tell there was a history there, right? And him explaining that, and I loved how I can't remember his wife's name if they're even married at that point. He's
Cassidy.
like, "You have to promise." Yeah, Cassie's like, "You have to promise me you won't tell us." She's like, "I promise." And then it immediately cuts. Okay, he
You
made
can't
me
tell him.
promise not to tell you. You know.
It's really well done.
Yeah, it
I
was.
love O'Brien and Bashir is like, "What are you eating?" He's like, "I'm not eating. I'm chewing."
Yeah,
They used to
got to
infuse it with
flavor it,
flavor.
gum.
What'd you infuse it with? Scotch. Like,
Yeah,
of course, the Irishman. Yes.
yeah, that was good. And then at the end, where they're all just shooting the shit in the bar and everything, like, yeah, it was fun. It was a good
Bad News
episode.
Bears in space.
Yeah,
And they needed episodes like this because goddamn DS9 gets dark.
Mm-hmm. Oh my yes.
Warden, do you have any closing thoughts on Take Me Out of the Holosuite?
I mean, you guys have kind of already said it. It's a fun episode. It's cute. And it's carried off. And it's carried off in a way that's fun and light and not self-conscious at all. But at the
Mhm.
same time, they still manage to make it not cringe. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just very
Oop,
earnest and fun, and I enjoyed
yeah.
it.
To
And
to
I
to
go
put
ahead.
it in Joe Bob. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
No,
thought you were.
no, go ahead. What?
Well, I was just gonna say, to put it in Joe Bob's terms, if I was surfing the channels and this was on,
Hmm.
I would watch it again.
Yeah, and
So
you mentioned Cassidy and her that scene was funny, but I Penny Johnson's just good actress, and I enjoyed the fact that she was on this show every now and then. So yeah, she plays off of Avery Brooks really well. So yeah, good
And
episode.
when her and Cisco first meet, they
Hmm.
kind of bond talking about baseball.
Hmm.
So it was nice of him to pull her in, and
Yeah.
pull
you
some
can
strings. Yeah, she's like, for some reason, my next 3 weeks worth of deliveries have all been pushed off. You
Yeah.
know,
What do you want to do with all my free time?
Let's play
I have a few
baseball.
ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that was good. That was a solid
Oh,
episode.
and the actor whoever he was that played Solok needs probably a little shout out too. Okay, Gregory Wagrowski. Yeah, because I mean, you had no problem hating him, and that guy
Yeah.
was a dick,
He absolutely was.
and he did it without being like, yeah,
Which
again.
is tough to do as a Vulcan, right? Because you can't be a dick, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because being a dick is an emotion, right?
Yeah.
Or is it, you know? So I thought that was good. I thought the whole all Vulcan crew thing was interesting.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Was that done? Like, is that something that happens throughout Star Trek, or was this kind of
I
like?
think there's
Was that just?
there's a precedent for that, I believe.
I just didn't know if it was a context to kind of further establish him as a dick, as an arrogant dick, right?
Yeah, I don't
But
know. I don't know. I mean, it does kind of establish him as a dick. Like he would work the crew roster so that it's only Vulcans.
Mhm.
hmm they were
Because you would
superior,
definitely think if a captain made a request to make his starship all human, that he would be a dick.
right?
I mean, yeah, I know that they had that come up like in earlier eras. I don't know how common it would have been in the TNG DS9 time period.
Yeah.
Well, that was
And
a
then
Nebula class starship, so you're talking about a lot of people. So in my mind, makes you more of a dick.
yeah, it had to be very intentional. Um, and then him talking about like, well, it'd be nice to spend a week behind the front lines. Just it was like, yeah, it was a good point, Warden. He did a very good job of making his character unlikable, right?
He's won 2 Christopher Pike Medals of Valor.
Yeah, and it was funny. When I was on vacation last week, the whole family, extended family, wanted to watch Avatar, right?
Mhm.
And I forgot how much of a pet peeve it is of mine when when writers create a character who's totally one dimensional just for the sake of being nefarious and unlikable,
Mhm.
right? Like the Colonel or whatever he was on that is just he's so bad. Even though the actor's I kind of like the actor. Like the character's just written so he's just so damn evil. He's like a Dutchman. I mean, he's just evil and that's it, right?
Mhm.
And Solon was a dick, and he was clearly established to be a dick. But he also still had a little bit of depth, and part of that was Cisco delivering some of the backstory, and the things that we're talking about. Like he could have just come in there and been just a total arrogant prick, but he was a total arrogant prick. But it was delivered in a more, I'm not gonna say nuanced way, but there was some
Reserved.
nuance, yeah. And I appreciated that about him
Oh,
because I feel like even of all the episodes that we've seen, you know, um, granted we haven't gotten to Space Seed yet, but of all the episodes that we've seen that we talk about on the show, the ones that we've liked, you have villains or antagonists who at least have some kind of depth or motivation or something,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then juxtapose that with Discovery, where we were just making villains like they were more like comic book villains,
Mhm.
than anything else. Um, and again, I forgot how much of a pet peeve of that of mine that is. Probably because nowadays it's just becoming the norm just to make a villain who's just purely a villain and that's it, you know. And so I appreciated that about this handful of episodes. So
Yeah, Willie, I know what you mean. My daughter's been watching Lucifer, and we got to the Black Lives Matter episode, and of course, there's the one like white cop that's just made like so comically racist,
Exactly.
And my sweet daughter couldn't understand why I was just giggling at it the whole time because it was a hoot. Because at the kind of penultimate
It's
action
like
part of
racists aren't even this racist. Come on.
exactly. Well, like the falsely accused black woman that's running from an actual killer. They've called the cops, because to help to give them backup because the killer is going after her, and she's like alongside the detective, and they pull up, and the racist cop is like, "Look out! There she is. She may have a gun, and she's been shot, and she's like bleeding and hiding behind a garbage can and crying." I'm like, oh my god, really?
Look
Like,
out.
come
He's
on,
got
mother.
a gun.
It's like wow, they can't make it just a little
I
more over the
know.
top.
We cannot.
Like
Subtext is a thing of the past.
I am surprised, like his white robes didn't fall out of, like he had just come from across burning.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody was worried about their bank accounts and their computer code in Y2K, and what we really killed was nuance. So,
Wow,
but
that's
Nice. Wow.
there's a
That
reference.
was a reference. Well
All
done.
right, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, season 6. Or excuse me, season 7. Take me out to the Hollow Suite. Fun for the whole family. Unlike Avatar, apparently.
look, this is what I told them, and I'll go ahead and throw my Avatar review in here. They were talking about how great the movie was. I'm like, look, visually, this movie is stunning, and it really does make you feel like what it would be like to go to a new world, an alien world, right? But outside of that, there's not. You change Native Americans to aliens, and you're watching Dances with Wolves. And when you take Kevin Costner's bare ass out of the movie, what have you got left?
I mean, it makes it. Hey, you can't argue with that. Tatanka.
That's right. Oh boy. All right. So what's up next?
The final episode that we watched this week was a recommendation from Biblio Warden for the original series episode Space Seed. Warden, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you picked this episode?
Honestly, a little good bit for the same reason I picked Amok Time. It's more background for Willie's education. Plus, I mean, Khan seems to be coming up everywhere now. So, understanding at least how they originally established the eugenics wars and his character is I thought a useful exercise, and plus it is a halfway decent episode in and of itself. Definitely shows off the problems associated with the original series and TV in the 1960s in general, but yeah, I forgot just how problematic McGivers is on multiple levels, and how problematic the way Kirk treats her is. And
boy.
the fact that toward the beginning of the episode, when he said, "Let's see if we can get the historian to actually do something," I wanted to knee him in the balls.
I love, by the way, that the historian just like lives in a room of artifacts.
No,
and yeah,
paintings. Oh man, with her hair tied up in a bow. Oh boy.
It's
but
not
yeah,
very aesthetically
Yeah.
pleasing.
Kirk calls her out on being like a schoolgirl crush. He's like, I need you to focus on your work
I
and stop
know.
thinking about the man's dick.
I know, right?
Oh boy.
Spock's over there like, Captain, the humidity in this room has risen by 7%.
Yeah.
And Khan's formal wear game is on point. I got to tell you,
I
if
don't
I could
disagree.
pull that shit off.
Oh man,
He's a '90s man, so you know.
that's right. That's right. Khan could. Apparently, they didn't have many yoga classes that were available to white men in the '60s. That was the most intense fucking yoga.
Yeah.
It's supposed to relax you, dipshit.
No,
Oh my
not if you're
god.
genetically engineered.
Fucking Dalzim on there. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Superior ability breeds superior meditation. So.
He's just cramming it into a lot of the short time frame. Yeah.
Yoga Doro.
I love it. You wake up after 200 years and the first thing you do is fucking sunrise or whatever it's called. Oh boy.
MacGyver's isn't going to last very long on Sadie Alpha 5, I don't think.
No, she is not.
Oh, well, in Wrath of Khan, it's
limited.
made very clear that she didn't.
So I was wondering if that got addressed or not. But
there's a throwaway
what
reference
was
to her
it?
at very least. I can't remember.
Just throwaway.
Yeah, you know, I can't remember
he mentioned
exactly.
something about his beloved dying.
Yeah.
But I don't assume that's MacGyver's. She was a side piece of ass. I kind of don't think Khan would fall for a regular human.
No.
I mean, you know,
No, but
that's like a little bit lower level on the evolutionary chain to him. It's like, yeah, you'd fuck a sheep, but you wouldn't marry one. I'm just kidding. Only
No,
if you're Scottish.
But again, it was a fun episode to watch to kind of get some of the backstory. I had never seen this episode. From a sci-fi standpoint, you know, while that didn't make a ton of sense, if you've captured them enough to subdue them and put them in a sleeper ship, you've probably captured them well enough to subdue them. Or did they launch themselves in the sleeper ship? I thought that was kind of like their punishment, was they put them in a sleeper ship and launched them.
I think that's the implication.
Yeah.
So that didn't make a ton of sense. Like, why wouldn't you just kill them? I got a gun in my room. I'll just come out here and I'll shoot them. Bang, they're dead.
It was the '90s and gun control.
Scott, you just don't get it, do you? You don't.
Yeah.
So that was weird,
but
I did like how Khan or Ricardo Montalban or whatever you want to say did a good job of acting it out like he was not letting too much, like even though he'd been asleep for 200 years, like he woke up and he was still guarded and he wasn't giving away too much information, right? Not until Kirk finally rattled him. Yeah, he's playing it close to the chest. I thought that was kind of cool. You know, like I thought that was interesting. Like it showed that he immediately did come up and was like strategizing 2 and 3 moves ahead of everybody, right? And until he got rattled at the formal dinner, I don't think it really even clicked into place when they were like, you know what, this guy's not all he's adding up to be. You know, there's something else here. Thought that was cool. Yeah, the costume design was, oh boy. MacGyver's just being laughably bimbo was pretty great. And then yeah, Kirk dressing her down for having a schoolyard crush, and you know,
being like, so you got 2 choices: court martial, or you can go with your new boyfriend.
Yeah,
like,
I'll go with my new boyfriend.
That's interesting.
And then you know the whole. I mean, imagine in 2023 making a character who's abusive to a woman and getting away with it, right? I mean, he basically, you know, he abuses her, and then she's like, "No, I want to stay."
Oh,
No,
he was
you
bad
leave now.
abusive.
now you have to ask me.
That
Can I
that
please
was
stay? Like,
that was
oh boy, that did not age well.
uncomfortable.
That did
Yes.
not age well.
She went back and drew a picture of him in his turban.
Yeah, saw that. I know who you are. You're Leif Erikson, and Napoleon, and I was like, are these the only people you know from history? Like, you use these references several times.
If it had been made today, she'd been like Elon Musk.
No, I don't believe so.
Was it Discovery that made the Elon Musk
Yes,
reference?
which is completely in keeping
Fucking
with.
figure.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the most Discovery thing.
especially if Mark Zuckerberg bests him in their upcoming match. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go retcon that. So,
I'm
but
not a big
again,
Zuckerberg fan, but I hope he disassembles him.
I mean, between the two, he seems more,
You think?
athletic. But anyway, for those of you who listen to the show 10 years down the road, when you find it on your YouTube feed, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have been hemming and hawing about having a physical altercation match. What, MMA style?
Yeah.
Oh boy!
But it depends on whether Elon's mommy will let him. So
I mean, my
God
God,
damn it.
we
Be
are
just
really
assured that this will
at
not
the
be
edge of
available in 10
idiocracy.
years, Warden. We did not mean to offend High President Musk.
I mean, like
Supreme
I said,
Overlord.
we are so close to idiocracy, it's not even funny anymore. But
Mr. High President, you can't see me, but I've got my middle finger up and it's aimed at you. Okay.
but
That's okay. That's the new salute. That was approved in 2029 as the official salute.
it's like the Spaceball salute, except the middle finger. Oh man!
Oh my God! Yeah, Vice President Scrooge is using it as part of his platform.
So but aside from the uncomfortable misogyny parts, it was interesting. But here's what I don't get. Okay, about the episode, and I should say this, that I enjoyed the episode, probably for the main fact that it was Khan. Had this been another villain, I think this episode would have been eye rolling, right? But because it was Khan, and because I've already seen Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and we have just conified everything in future Star Treks, it was interesting to see that. A lot of the references made from the episode of Enterprise we watched last week, they made a little bit more sense now, and they kind of, rang a little bit true. But aside from all of that, I didn't quite understand the resolution of this episode, where we're like, okay, so we found this murderous bastard, and we actually have him subdued at the moment, and our solution is to just maroon him on a planet somewhere in the galaxy, an inhospitable planet, and just sweep this all under the rug. I didn't quite understand that resolution.
Actually,
But
it
I
sounds
also
like you completely understood it because
but I
that's what it
also
was.
did but I also didn't understand why that created the conflict of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, because Khan's like, okay, I'm good with this plan. It's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, right? But then when you get to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Khan blames him for marooning him on this planet and all this stuff. So now, having gone back and seen that, I didn't totally understand all that. But
Okay,
yeah,
well,
what the
I don't
fuck
know.
ever.
I don't know how much of Wrath of Khan you remember, but they go back to the SETI offices. They maroon Khan to SETI Alpha 5,
Yeah.
right? And then when they come in, they're going to search SETI Alpha 6. So they're not expecting to find Khan because they left him on SETI Alpha 5, but something had happened, like a massive planetary collision or supernova or gravity inversion or some techno babble that had caused like the planets to get completely fucked up in orbits.
Pinballed around, yeah.
Yeah, and so it turned, Ceti Alpha 5, which was a harsh world, into a completely uninhabitable almost world. And the orbit was so screwed up that they thought it was the sixth planet from the system. Now, there's a whole lot of fucking up going on for them to not realize that, I think. But
This is City Alpha 5.
Yeah, and that's why he said that. Yeah, because they're like, no, on Ceti Alpha 5 there was a chance. Chekhov, who remembers this somehow.
Yeah.
In Ceti Alpha 5 there was life, there was chance for a happy planet. This is Ceti Alpha 5. And it's because they thought they were on Ceti Alpha 6 or 4. I don't remember, but yeah. I guess 4 would make more sense because it seemed like the planet was closer to the sun, not further.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he blamed him for putting him on that planet, and then that planet getting completely fucked up by a natural disaster that Kirk would have had no way of predicting. But I mean, Khan obviously had a few screws loose.
Yes,
Anyway.
it did. Okay.
I think the way I feel about this episode is, it is safe to say this episode is more important than it is good.
Fair.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it hadn't have been Khan, I don't think I would have liked the episode. Because it would have been just too much. But because it was Khan, and I already knew that Khan was too much, I was able to accept it and be like, oh, hey, that's cool. This is like the Khan origin story,
It makes me wonder what the reaction from the community was when they found out the name of the new Star Trek movie is The Wrath of Khan. Were they like, Khan sucked? or was he beloved in 1980 as a classic Star Trek villain, like one of the best?
I honestly could not tell you.
If there are any sheer fucking Hubrisites out there that were alive in the 60s and remember how you felt when you saw it was Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, let us know in the chat.
When I was reading about it, I did see where Ricardo Montalban had some hesitance about taking on the role because he was in some kind of different show around about the same time where he played a different character, and he was worried that the audience would not be able to accept him in his previous role as Khan. But I would say he definitely played it the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see more cleavage in Star Trek 2, but we got to see more leg in the original series. So, take the good with the bad, And the Gene Simmons hair. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, boy.
It was the 80s.
Oh, man.
Even on Ceti Alpha 5, it was the 80s.
Yeah. And then of course we don't need to get into it, but too much. But there is the problematic reality that a Mexican gentleman is playing a guy that's supposed to be from northern India.
Yeah.
But
was that better or worse? Was that
than the British guy?
How they casted white people doing it? Like, what's worse? You go out and get at least a half. Well, look, he's not Indian, but he's Mexican, so. Like we made an effort here.
He had
They're
the suntan.
Indians of the Americas. I mean,
That's right.
Well, they called him a
skin
Sikh,
is darker.
and I was like, aren't Sikhs supposed to have beards by like religious? Isn't that a whole part of the Sikh religion? Is the men can't cut the beards?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. They also do. I mean, it is accurate that the Sikhs. Religious Sikhs do wear turbans, which is odd that he's not.
Was Montalban at first when I saw him, I was like, is he in blackface? Like, or I guess brown face? Because like he was
I don't
darker than I remember.
think. I don't believe he was. No, I mean Ricardo Montalban was always quite tan, if nothing else.
If nothing else.
That is his one redeeming quality. He's quite tan.
Well, I'm not.
I mean, that
Didn't
was
quite mean
probably
it that
what it
way,
said
but
in the script. Tan gentleman wakes up. And what color is it supposed to be? Mexican,
though,
Indian? Fuck it.
I love what the 60s thought futuristic technology would look like, though.
yes.
I mean, I've been enjoying that. Also, it cracks me up that, and I guess I kind of, you know, it's an interesting study in history, I guess. So, if you've lived through the 40s, right? Yeah. So you had WW2, right? Or let's just start with the Depression, then WW2, then you had Korea, then you had Vietnam. So you're sitting here writing this in the 60s. It was probably pretty plausible to think that, by the 90s, the world's going to be engulfed in a world war again, and it's going to be because of the ambitions of of individuals, the same as we've had, all these problems for the last, 50 years. So I think it's interesting that they were like, in by 1990, there's going to be a world war and the whole world's going to be, billions are going to die. The billions was a big number. No, they said that billions died during these eugenics wars. Plus thinking about where the technology could have been. I wonder if it felt like such a safe thing to do to say that that happened in the 90s, in the 60s,
Yeah, but it's
or do you
created.
think or do you think it was Roddenberry saying like, we're on a very dark path if we don't fix this? Was it social commentary, or was it just arbitrary time period that he put? I guess is what I'm saying. Kind of like how Discovery, Jacob's planet or whatever, they were rescued from a war in like 2030. Was that right? 2030 something?
And I'm
Isn't that
pretty
when the
sure
I
Red
thought it was
Angels?
like the 2050s, but yeah.
You know,
they
so I always wonder if people were doing that as social commentary, or if they just think that's a far enough date in the future that it's safe.
I think it's more the second thing, because they've been progressively retconning the date of the eugenics wars over time, and it's so that it can feel like it's in the future, and then they really want
Continuously feel like it's in the future.
right,
Like, so that we would now feel like it's in the future
because
and not.
a
Okay.
big part of what Roddenberry was trying to do is create not just like a futuristic, but our actual future. And if you reach that time, it kind of takes you out of that mindset where there's a hopeful future, because you're like, well, obviously this isn't our universe, because I mean the 90s were like, stupid. So,
I
so
think the social commentary is that he didn't believe, and Star Trek just kind of doesn't believe, that humans can get their shit together on the path that we're on without a major, global catastrophe that destroys everything, and that this is kind of the future we're headed towards.
humanity's reboot.
Yep.
He may not be wrong.
There's some
Well.
validity to that school of thought.
Just let me be gone.
All right. Space Seed.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a hell of
It's
a
a
thing.
thing. I thought it was softcore porn for the first 25 minutes of the episode.
Well, you should have known by the name. Well, never mind.
That's exactly.
Yeah. You wouldn't even need to change the name for the parody episode.
No,
you
just add part 1.
Miss McIvers, do you want to try my space seed? Receive it. Oh, God. All right, well, so muck time, blink of an eye, the visitor, take me out of the hollow suite, and space seed. Warden, out of these 5, which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, it's the visitor. I mean, I know it's heavy, but yeah, no, that's my favorite. I mean, they're all good. Well, I mean, they're all interesting, if nothing else. 4 of them are definitely good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Willie?
but yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. I was.
Willie, do you have a favorite out of the group?
Probably take me out to the hollow suite.
Oh, it's another tough call for me. I mean, Visitor's so good, and blink of an eye. I said it's another one that's just a fun episode. I think Take Me Out of the Hollow Suite is probably my favorite. I actually watched it twice in the 2 weeks. It is my favorite DS9 lighter episode. The Visitor, while I like it, is probably not my favorite heavy DS9 episode. So I'm going to go with Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite for my favorite out of these 5. It's so much fun.
I can see that.
I enjoyed it, gentlemen. This is a good selection of episodes. What do you think we should do next week? Should we watch should we go back to New Trek, or do you want to do another week of a cross section of old Trek episodes?
I gotta tell you, I mean, I'm enjoying doing old episodes, and I wouldn't mind throwing them in here and there where it might be pertinent. But I'm having it's getting harder and harder for me to not get Strange New Worlds in particular spoiled for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I have to go la 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 when I start up Paramount Plus right now.
Well, would you gentlemen be opposed to doing the 2 new ones and 2 old ones?
No, that's fine with me, anyway.
Well, that sounds good. Well, then I don't know which 2 yet. Warden, you'll pick one, I'll pick one.
Sure.
Okay. And we'll be back next week with the first 2 episodes of season 3 of Star Trek Picard and season 2 of Strange New Worlds, plus 2 bonus episodes. Our fans will love it.
Oh, you bet they will.
That they will.
Warden, make it so.
This is excuse me. Biblio Warden, Joe Bob, and Mr. Willie signing off.
All right, guys. Good job.